So this is episode number 13 of the Young Entrepreneurs podcast, where we dive into the stories, lessons, experiences of founders, local legends, and industry pioneers. Today's episode is part of our Backstory Diary of Success series, where we explored the journeys and insights that shape success. Today's guest is Mr. J, longtime scout leader, mentor, Eagle Scout coach, and financial planning expert. And Mr. J has spent decades guiding young people and families achieving their financial goals. So, Mr. J, again, thank you so much for joining us. And that's my first question is, can you share an early experience that shaped your approach to mentoring other people?
Well, I was an Eagle Scout. I'm an Eagle Scout myself, so scouting has meant a lot to me growing up. I grew up with some divorced parents, so I lived with my sister. I lived with my mom, and so had to rely on other people to kind of help me get around when I couldn't drive and get from one place to another led me to this idea that people helped me and I wanted to give back. And so Scouts has allowed me to mentor literally thousands of young men the last 44 years to my role in helping to give back.
So would you say that it's kind of a little bit of like a dual reciprocant, a little bit of you kind of help me with what I need and then I'll do the other half of it a little bit?
Well, I think everybody is different. So some people you need to drag along, and some of them you need to push. And some people, if you give them the idea of what they need to do, they'll just do it on their own. And so on the scouting side, I've got 201 Eagle Scouts.
What is me?
But I've had thousands of young men in the program. So you could say, yeah, I've been doing it a long time and I've had some success, but didn't get all of them through the finish line. And so, but it's not easy, as you know, because it requires it's a lot of dedication. But I enjoyed the time, even with those that didn't make it.
And kind of going off of that, is there things that people don't do that prevent them from getting Eagle, or is it just a matter of dedication and wanting to actually achieve that big goal, if you will?
They need to want it. You probably heard me say before, we'll get you halfway. We'll get you to first class, regardless of whether you want to or not. You're going to get there. The rest of it's up to you. And so if you don't want it, it's almost impossible for me to give it to you. I will give you all the tools and able to get there, but it really needs to be about you. And I think if you don't do it that way, and there's some units that don't do it that way, it cheapens the whole idea of being an Eagle Scout. And so, a few months ago, I met this young man who was 13 and an Eagle Scout. And I just don't see how he learned enough to become the leader that we want him to have at 13, and probably would not have been able to survive the way we do it, in our troop.
Or even some of the people that, if you read the Boy Scout Life magazine, where it shows the people that have gotten it at 15 or 16.
Yeah, I think 16 is a perfect age because, 16, 17, you have the maturity about life. You know what you need to learn and you're teachable. You just don't have that when you're 13, 14, and even 15. I think that those that push through too early kind of burn out, and then you don't see them. And as you know, I like our scouts to give back to the troop because they were given kind of a hand up when they were coming through, and this is a chance to, give back. And rather than just always hearing from Mr. J all the time, hearing from a young person like yourself actually means more, I think, to some of the scouts coming through.
So would you kind of say part of it is a little bit running a marathon where you have to pace yourself versus just sprinting the whole way and burning out towards the end?
I think that's a good analogy. I think the life is not a sprint, and getting the Eagle, if you start at 11 and you got to finish by 18, you do have to pace yourself because it is a lot of work. And if you wait till it's too late, like a lot of them they're scrambling and they don't get to enjoy the experience, as opposed to if you kind of just take your time, do the things you need to do. By the time you're 16 or 17, you can enjoy the last ride as opposed to staying up most of the night cramming like you would a final exam.
Think that's a pretty good analogy. Even though you're no longer in scouts with both Troop 12, 804 and 1214, how has staying involved influenced your mentor style?
It is, and I'm still involved. I sponsor both the troop and the pack that my company does, and I still meet with the leadership to make sure that we're staying true to our beliefs. But I do think that having the experience of what I've done over the last 40 some years in scouting, and it has led me to, not only some success in scouting, but success in life and in business.
So do you think if you hadn't taken that path that it would have been different?
I think it'd have been a lot different. I don't see my life would be a whole lot different if I hadn't gone the scouting route at all. I used to think that a lot of stuff that we did really didn't have an impact. But when I have scouts who reach out to me after 20 years, 30 years and say, I remember this, or you taught me that. Yeah, now I do believe it. The impact is there, not only for me, but all our leaders.
Now, kind of having divorced parents, was there kind of some skills that you were taught, meaning more one from one parent and then more from another? Because I know that you do more listening than you do speaking. So is it kind of reflective of the way that you were raised, or how did that kind of come about?
Part of that's what I do for a living. So when you're in the financial planning world and you're working with people's money, you're very serious about it. And you need to, it's not about what I want, it's really about what they want. So that's probably taught me there. I think scouting gave me some life skills that helped as having from a divorced family, like cooking and being self-sufficient. So beyond the leadership, everyday skills, sewing my patches on and figuring out the logistics of getting from home to a camp out and back, which sometimes because my mom worked late, I wasn't able, I had to figure it out. Those sort of skills that still help me today.
So kind of what I'm understanding a little bit is more of it is self-reliant or delegating it out to other people and then finding a way to for it to happen.
Yeah, delegating is a great word. And if you remember kind of the years on campouts, we did a lot of that delegating, and I think it helps the people learn not only my style but what needs to be done. So I always thought success was when whether it's the boy leader or the adult leader started to read my mind and think before I had to say something. Then we knew we had arrived. Delegating, it's a lost art. So people either do it themselves or they just let people fail. And I'm okay with trying and failing. But, my favorite saying in life is you don't know what you don't know. And so unless you teach somebody the things they don't know, they may never know it.
How is kind of going off of delegating, how is part of it not essentially doing all the work yourself? Meaning, if you know that you're not good at certain things, how do you kind of either learn to say, okay, I can't do everything myself, and so I have to delegate it to a team, or I have to go out and hire people so that what I want gets done, and so that you can kind of fix the areas or grow your weaknesses into strengths.
So scouts taught me how to delegate. And then in business, I work on the things that I'm good at. And then I delegate the things that either I'm not good at or I don't want to do to other staff members. And makes me better, but also helps our client better, that they're not waiting on me to do something that I'm going to do wrong or not do it efficiently or take too long to do it. And so our business is a lot better for it, and our clients are better taken care of because I learned to delegate. I'll work on the things that I'm really good at and can make a difference in our clients' lives.
Is there certain skills or attributes that you've either learned from clients or just, I guess, in working with people that you wouldn't have expected that kind of go into your either day-to-day life or how you go about business?
Well, one of the reasons that I felt like I was so effective in scouts is that I've been around a long time and I made like every mistake. And you learn from those mistakes and you do things, you try them a different way. And I kind of did that same way in business where um, I'm able to try something that doesn't work, we try it again. I believe in you teach people the way you want it done, and then you give them the tools and resources to be able to get that done. And you don't watch over the shoulder. And, I want to be involved, but I don't want to be involved in every little thing that happens between me and a client. Expect the staff to get the job done and get back to a client or follow up, what have you.
So a little bit of is starting the roller coaster a little bit and then putting up a little bit of guardrails and not just letting it kind of fly and crash and burn, if you will, a little
That's
bit.
my style. Now, other people have different styles. Yeah, I want people to succeed. I don't want to do it all for them, but they got to try. Sometimes you try and you fail, but other times you need to be pushed or you need to be, guardrails is a good, um, analogy that, you have the ability to, get something done, but some people need either more experience, more tools, more initiative, or they just need somebody to push them to get it done.
How do you kind of or leading scouts and coaching Eagle Scouts requires patience and insight. Lessons from scouting translate to your young I guess to young entrepreneurs or young current leaders who are either resilient and not wanting to push themselves or who kind of don't want to take a risk and are kind of comfortable where they are.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I've been in my business for 35 years, and the first few years weren't that great. The next few years weren't that great. It took me a long time to really get confident in my own ability to be able to put together a plan and go out and get new business, and get people to trust me. It's a little easier now because I've been doing it a long time. I got gray hair. I got lots of stories to tell people and things that we've done and we've had success with. You have to be patient. I meet clients all the time that want to start a new business and have this great vision, but they expect it to happen in a matter of months or even a couple years. And, I find that for most businesses, it takes 5 years just to break even. You get lucky every once in a while, but most people are going to take several years. And then you'll work hard for the next 5 years and then you get to enjoy things after a while. I find a lot of people give up and they quit before they get to that point because it gets too hard and they give up.
So part of it is kind of delayed gratification, waiting for the results to happen later on and not expecting them to kind of happen right away.
Yeah, no, my oldest son is a physician, and that's the ultimate in delayed gratification because you graduate high school, then you go 4 years of college, then you go to another 4 years of medical school, then in his case, another 4 years of residency and fellowship, extra training. Then you go to get your real job. So where most people, if they go to college and they finish or they finish high school, go right to a job, get started right away. In his case, he had to wait 12 years before he was able to then not only do the things he was trained to do, but start making a living doing what he's trained to do. And most people, I'm not sure I could have done that. Well, I think I have some patience, but that's way beyond the role of being patient.
Can you share a memorable story from either Troop 804 or 1214 that illustrates teamwork, resilience, or leadership?
Teamwork is, as you know, in the scouting world, We operated in patrols, so a group of 6 to 8 young men, um, and they got to work together. And way back early on in my career, we decided we were going to build this 30-foot signal tower from scratch, meaning we got to find all the timber. And we were on a private farms. We don't cut down live trees, but we had the ability to get trees that were not necessarily fully down on the ground and build this thing. 2 hours in, we had hardly made any uh, progress. So we had given each patrol a portion to do. We had 4 patrols back then, and 2 of them were struggling and 2 weren't. So I actually decided that I was going to change the leadership and move the patrol leaderships and shuffle them to see if we can get a different view of what the goal was and see if we can get this thing done. And we were lucky. I mean, it was nightfall before we got it completed, but it was a lesson not only for them, it was a lesson for me that sometimes the best plan doesn't always work out. And sometimes you either got to redo the plan or go to plan B to get things done.
Sometimes it won't always happen as you expected, and you kind of have to pivot a little bit.
Yeah, no, I feel that's in life too. Some of the stories you were telling me about your college career so far. We got to sometimes just start and you got to start over. Sometimes you got to take a left turn. In our planning world, we talk about life's financial journey. Sometimes in that journey, you come to a fork in the road. Now the plan tells us which one to take and tells you if we take the left one, we're going to end up here. If we take the right one, we're going to end up over there. And so it kind of helps you figure it out. But sometimes life doesn't turn out the way you had planned, and that's okay too. That's part of learning. We're expecting our first grandchild November 1st with our oldest son. I think my wife had expected to have several. We got friends that have 10, 11 grandchildren that are younger than us. We had to be patient. We had to work through the process, and they had to do the things that they needed to do. And, all going to work out, but it wasn't the plan originally. And so, yeah, it does work out. But a lot of times it's like I said earlier, people quit too soon and they don't either see it through or decide to go a different route, maybe without trying.
All right. My next question is, in 2023, you integrated your financial planning practice into your current employer, Obsidian. What challenges or lessons from that experience could young entrepreneurs learn?
Yeah, so again, the great question. So the reason why I merged the practice was to make sure our clients were well taken care of when I decide to slow down or retire myself. And so we wanted a bigger firm to be able to take care of them. So that was the reason. Yeah, I learned a lot, still learning a lot as we go through the process. I'm not the boss anymore. And so that's hard. I was the boss for a long, long time. Now they let me do what I want to do. So I'm not sure I could work for somebody else anymore, but technically I do. And so, but they let me kind of do what I want to do. And so the processes are a little different and how we do things now versus the way things take a little bit longer to do. When it's just, it's me and my little 5-person staff, it's easy to make decisions. We can turn easily. But when you got a larger company, it takes a little longer because everybody has to know what's going on. So I think that has been some of the challenges when you got to do things differently. You got to be open-minded about it. And at my age, that has always been the easiest thing. So it's tried my patience a little bit in the last 2.5 years. So the first year was real tough. The second year got a little easier, and now we're on the third year. It feels a lot better.
So now it's kind of like figuring out how it works a little bit, and then adapting to it as you go along.
Yeah, and I'm outspoken enough that if I think things need to be done differently, I will speak up. And I think they've learned some things and doing things differently from my experience in the business that they were doing before. So I think it was need to be open for everybody.
So clients describe you as relatable, wise, and caring. How do these traits guide your approach to business, mentorship, and decision making?
I think you first have to be likable. One of the points, a couple of points of the Scout Wall, being cheerful and kind. And so I think if you want to be successful in life and in business, you ought to be likable. But I think if you don't have a good reputation, which means you do what you say you're going to do and you're honest, again, another example of the Scout Law, trustworthy, you'll have a hard time in business. I meet people all the time that don't follow up on what they say they're going to do, and they wonder why they struggle, whether it's in business or relationships or in life. If people know they can rely on you, they'll come to you and they'll refer people to you because they want their friends to be treated the same. But that's kind of my personality. I'm very structured in life, and I practice what I preach and I do what I say I'm going to do. And not perfect, but it's, feel like I'm a lot better than most.
So the two kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurs are interesting people. You need to have the willingness to take a risk. And so I took lots of risks during my career. Again, and you're as an entrepreneur, you got staff, they're relying on you to pay them every other week, provide their benefits and office to work at. There's a lot of risk and a lot of pressure with that. And so I I'm okay with having that risk because I've done it for a long time, but a lot of people aren't. That's why a lot of entrepreneurs don't succeed because they're not ready to either take that risk or they're not prepared for it. And so, all the great, well-known entrepreneurs that are around these days that are very, very, have done very well in their life took a risk either the first day or the first year or the first decade before they're, were successful.
So I know that you enjoy golf, traveling, and reading. How do these hobbies influence your perspective on mentoring, leadership, or business strategy?
I think the strategy behind golf kind of lends itself to thinking ahead and like, what's the next move, which again is an entrepreneurial thing. I'm not saying I'm very good at it, but I do like to enjoy it. I spend a lot of time reading because I think in order to be good at what you do, you got to study. And so I'm fairly well read in our industry just because I want to be good at and give our clients good advice. And then I go to the gym every morning, 5 days a week. And so hopefully that keeps not only my body sharper, but my mind is sharp as well. And I think if you're an entrepreneur, if you don't take care of yourself, whether that's through exercise or through mental challenges, you'll struggle because the stress involved in building whatever you're building is great.
So it can kind of take its toll regardless a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Big time.
Are there any experiences or books recently that um, have inspired or taught you something? Okay. So looking back at all the people you've mentored, what advice or principles are most important for young entrepreneurs?
Again, as I said earlier, don't give up. I think you have to have a plan. Some people are really good at winging it. I've never been that way. I want to be prepared. But I think if you have a good plan and you don't give up, and you got to have something that people want, whether it's you're selling chicken, or you're writing books, or you are writing code, you gotta have something that people want. Because if they don't want it, there's a hard time selling it to somebody else or having somebody pay you for what you're doing. And that changes, the things change from year to year. And so sometimes you gotta I was talking with a business owner the other day, and he's thinking about selling his business and starting over with something else. And most people wouldn't do that. But a true entrepreneur will do that several times in his career. And so I haven't done that, but he was very excited about the fact that probably in the next year he's going to sell his business and start all over.
So he's gonna start from scratch, which I'm sure can be fun, but also I'm sure it has its struggles as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk associated with that. Now, hopefully, if he sells the business in our business here, we do a lot of succession planning. So we take people from whatever business they're in and we help them figure out what's the next step, whether it's selling to somebody within the company, selling to somebody else in the industry, selling the private equity, whatever. And then sometimes it's to get them to the next thing. Sometimes it's to get them to retirement, but we do a lot of that.
So the question that was left for you from our last guest is, what advice would you give your younger self?
Take a chance. And I grew up, kind of a shy person, played sports, but kind of stuck to myself. And scouts kind of blossomed me into a person where I can speak in front of thousands of people now. Not that I won't be nervous, but I can do that. I never thought I could do it before. And so I think you got to try new things, things that maybe make you feel uncomfortable. And I wish somebody had kind of pushed me maybe a little earlier in my life to do those things.
Now, if you could ask the next guest one question, what would it be?
What is your plan to be successful? And then what does success look like? So for some people, success is how much money you have in the bank. For others, it's how many people have you helped or mentored. And others, it could be the legacy that you leave. And so I think, having a plan.
So it kind of comes in different ways. It's not just a normal way, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the last question that I have is, are there 2 to 3 people you know, advisors, founders, or local leaders that would make great guests for this podcast?
Yeah, I'm sure we could come up with a few names that we could pass on to you. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to say again, thank you to Mr. J for taking the time out of his busy day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure. Good luck to you.
Thank you. If you want to know where to find Mr. J, you can find him through Obsidian Financial Planning or reach out through his network. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Share this episode with friends or fellow entrepreneurs who could benefit from Mr. J's insight, and leave us a review or feedback. Your support helps us continue bringing inspiring stories from founders, local leaders, and industry pioneers. Until next time, this is the Young Entrepreneurs Podcast, Backstory Diary of Success. Keep learning, keep building, and keep making it happen. And this was episode number 13.